All right, basketball instant reaction right here. I'm Stephen Willis, along with Trevor Oxley. We're going to talk about Ole Miss's 76-59 win over South Carolina. Trevor, the Rebels just took care of business tonight,
Yeah, it was a complete game through and through. Ole Miss came in. They knew what they needed to do. They knew what was at stake, and they did it.
and we're going to get to the bubble a little bit later, but all the results just seemed to snowball in Ole Miss's favor as the day went on, even down to Duke getting a COVID and having to leave the ACC tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I could go through the list of everybody that, of all the things that pretty much went in Ole Miss's favor and realistically what we're looking at. I do feel bad for Duke. I don't wish that on anybody because I'm assuming, they pretty much followed all the rules, all the guidelines. But as far as what Ole Miss can control, I'm kind of glad we played South Carolina. I know, it would have been nice to get that 5 seed, but I really didn't want to play Vanderbilt again. I think you saw that with the Florida game. They came out in the second half, put up, 41 points. So that's, excellent for them. And they took it down to the wire. So, it was a very close game between the two of them. And then I think you're seeing a theme go on between a lot of these, first games that teams play where things kind of come out and be a lot closer than what they expect, especially in the SEC. I already mentioned Vanderbilt, and then you have Mississippi State, Kentucky going down to the wire, and then you have Missouri getting taken to the wire by Georgia. So if that's a trend, we could be in a decent spot to take LSU by storm tomorrow.
Also, a trend today was big leads evaporating. Mississippi State lost a 15-point lead before winning at the very end, and I believe the same thing happened. Florida saw a double-digit lead evaporate to Vanderbilt as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, we saw it today with Ole Miss. I mean, they almost got up to around 18, maybe 20. Did they touch 20? I can't remember. But it was something where you knew. I mean, it's the Frank Martin team, so they're gonna come out and they're gonna hustle. But you knew that they were gonna come back a little bit. It's SEC tournament play. No one's rolling over here.
Yeah, and I put the tweet out earlier that playing Frank Martin in a tournament setting is like going to the dentist. I mean, you do not want to play that man in a setting like this.
No, and I mean they were out without a couple players, and we're still battling. They brought energy. It was just Ole Miss matched it. Ole Miss was able to control the game, but you could see the fight on both teams. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, a lot of energy from KJ Buffin. Jarkel Joyner probably had his best game as an Ole Miss Rebel, in my opinion. And then you have Matthew Morrell also starting to emerge a little bit.
Yeah, I think it all started with KJ tonight. I think, in the first half, Ole Miss started out slow. I tweeted out keys to the game beforehand. One of them was to start out strong, and they kind of didn't do it. But KJ, even when he willed his way to that put back and one bucket where he was surrounded by three guys, you could just see that the energy was there from him, and that eventually rubbed off onto other guys. And you started to see Romello White protect the rim a little bit better. He was challenging shots, he was rebounding. And then you saw Devontae Shuler start to come out with it. And then once we got into the bench guys, Robert Allen played really good minutes. And I hold up real quick while I see how many it was he got for the game. So he played 23 minutes. You think about Robert Allen, you don't even realize that he played 23 minutes. And that's about as good as you can ask for a bench player, unless for him to do some sort of standout thing. He comes in, he plays the game, you don't even notice he's in there because he's holding down the job as well as KJ Buffin did.
Yeah,
and then you're right. Matthew Morrell if he plays like this tomorrow, that'd be a string of games. He's not a freshman anymore. Don't put the freshman label on him. He's essentially a veteran now. He looks confident.
And anybody else catch your eye? I mean, Luis Rodriguez, this might be a little bit before your time, but a very Jason Smith-like performance.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm a big fan of Lou Rod's game. I put out a piece pretty early in the year, and I said that Lou Rod was actually our third guy, and he was pretty much what I called a glue guy. And he was the guy that he's never going to hurt you. He may not wow you, but he's always has his impact on little things, whether it's, getting to the right defensive rotation spot, bringing energy, getting scrappy points. It's you can always count on Luis Rodriguez to be, if not a plus, to at least be neutral, and that's someone you want on the floor, a perfect role player.
And Real quick, moving on to LSU a little bit. The first game this year, I think Devontae Shuler was 0 for 9, ended up with 2 points, both from the foul line. What do you attribute that performance to, and how can he correct that tomorrow?
Yeah, it was interesting. A lot of guys talked about it at the post-game press conference. So if you follow the Rebel Walk on Twitter, you know you're going to see tweets of quotes from it. They just weren't mentally prepared to play LSU the first time. First time around, it was a COVID game, so they were scheduled to play South Carolina. That got canceled, and then LSU also had the date off, so they brought them in. And I'm assuming that this was just kind of you were practicing for South Carolina. Then they had a 48-hour turnaround to switch things up for LSU. They came in and they lost the game. LSU didn't really do anything spectacular. Cam Thomas got hurt, so they were down a player. And then pretty much Ole Miss just, like you said, they went cold. It was one of their worst shooting performances of the year. LSU just kind of dragged the league up. We couldn't really scrap our way back into it. So I think it'll be a little bit different this time around. I really do.
What do you see as the keys for Ole Miss tomorrow?
Yeah, I think the big thing is Ole Miss really needs to get out and get on the defensive rebounds. Limit the second chance that LSU have. If they make tough shots, they make tough shots. I really think our defense, as long as it plays the way it has for most of the year, that we can limit their scoring. They're a really good offensive team, but for us to limit the amount of second chances they get and then actually limit how many points they get off of those second chances will be huge for us. I'm not so worried about how we play offensively because even tonight, it just felt like dudes were more confident shooting the ball. I don't know if you kind of got that vibe, but I mean, they were taking some shots that were a little bit more risky. They were, especially Romello White. There were a couple of shots that he had today that I was like, okay, it was a little bit different. Like I was used to him hitting that mid-range pick and pop, but for him to maybe take that one dribble and he had that floater with the right hand that was in the second half, I was like, that was kind of a little bit more interesting. That was a little bit out of it. So when you see the guys playing confidently, I feel like that'll translate to the next game. So for me, it's rebounding defensively and limiting LSU's chances.
Okay. And on the bubble for tomorrow, before we get back together for the reaction show tomorrow night, what on the bubble are people rooting for?
Yeah, there's not a lot going on for the rest of the night. But I will mention the Colorado State is playing Fresno State right now. That's the Mountain West tourney game. And the Mountain West is 3 teams that are currently above us. Boise lost today to Nevada, so their chances are pretty much done. Now, whether they do something like Xavier or St. Louis is trying to do and schedule another game to try and boost that resume last minute, I don't know. But look for us to kind of jump those teams because I really don't see the Mountain West being, a 3 bid into the NCAA tournament. So if we can kind of jump those teams and we can sneak into the first team out as of tomorrow, then I think we're in a really good spot. And then if, Colorado State loses to Fresno State, that has the impact on Utah State, who won earlier. So as those two are scheduled to, play each other, that means Utah State, might get into the finals of their bracket a little bit easier. But the game that they have to play isn't as good, so it's not going to affect their net rating as much. So we also want to, kill 2 birds with 1 stone there. And then they play San Diego State in the conference championship, which, who knows how that'll go, how that turn out. So that's kind of the one you're looking for. So if you're up late, you need something to watch, you're going to want to watch Colorado State, Fresno State. As far as other teams on the bubble, we alluded to it earlier, Duke's pretty much out. It's tough break. It is what it is. There's not really a whole lot else I can really talk about it. It sucks for them. Seton Hall beat St. John's, so St. John's kind of had a pretty high rise after that they actually played not too long ago, and it came down kind of to the wire. So Seton Hall pretty much has to win or get really close to the finals of their bracket. And then Louisville lost, Syracuse lost, which Syracuse is kind of iffy. They're the real wait-and-see team, so they're hoping we would lose and a couple other teams would lose. So when you look at that and you look at where Ole Miss is Ole Miss has the ability to control with a win. They might actually get in. But with how the SEC has been this year, top to bottom, it has the ability to boost its own, net rating and boost its, resume a lot better than a lot of these other teams do. So you look at the teams that have lost, you look at the teams who are pretty much real iffy in my mind. They're waiting to see what we would do. So if we do beat LSU, I think there's a really strong chance for us to get in. I haven't really looked a whole lot at the games that go on tomorrow. Just haven't gotten to it yet, but there may not be a whole lot when it comes to the bubble.
Well, also the Mississippi State game. If you are been
Yes,
rooting against Mississippi
yes.
State, they were 78th in the net coming into this game.
Hmm.
This should move them below 75 and make our win in Starkville a quad one
Yeah,
and take away a quad three loss.
yeah. No, that is huge for us. And like I said, at this point, we're shrinking the amount of days till selection Sunday. So anything that can boost our resume is good for us. But realistically, I still think it all comes down to tomorrow. If Ole Miss comes out and they win, I think there's 99% chance in.
Yeah, I said this going in. Tonight was the most must-win game in the history of the Ole Miss basketball program because without tonight, you can't get tomorrow, and tomorrow is where the opportunity lies.
I agree with you 100%. I've been saying that for a while. As soon as it was like everyone was worried about that, 5 seed, the potential we get. I know I already talked about it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you get that 5th seed and you have the chance to what we would have played Florida to get to play them. It doesn't matter if you don't win that first game. So, credit to them. They came out tonight. They looked really good across the board. And I think there's a weird, we look so good tonight. I'm interested to see if LSU comes out and they have to react to us tomorrow. Because, it's almost been almost a week since they played their last game. And we've already had one SEC tournament game under our belt. So we've kind of had that intensity because I don't think the physicality and anything is going to be energy is going to be too much different from what we saw tonight from South Carolina because they did battle. So I think that might actually help us in being prepared because I'm not worried about necessarily losing steam or fatigue at this point yet. That's more of a later in the bracket kind of thing when we had to play like our 3rd or 4th game in 4 days. Right now it's just, are we feeling good? Do we wake up tomorrow? Do we feel good? Do we have a good shoot around? Is the vibe of the team okay? And then we come out and we kind of catch LSU off guard a little bit.
Yeah, and hopefully we can get it. This would be our 3rd or 4th ranked win of the season. We're undefeated playing ranked teams, so it should be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. It's another night game tomorrow, so if you're on the East Coast, it's not too much fun staying up late like this, but that's all right. It gives them more time to, relax, get some sleep, prepare a little bit. And it's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow. I'm excited.
All right. And tomorrow we're planning on doing the show again, a reaction show after the game. Tune in for that. Tomorrow's Palmcast at 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Central will be done as well. For Trevor Oxley, I'm Stephen Willis. Ole Miss 76, South Carolina 59. Advancing to play LSU for basically all the marbles. But it was a great win, hotty toddy, and I'll see you tomorrow.